July 18th, 64 AD, the city of Rome, heart of an empire, lies unsuspecting beneath a heavy, stifling sky. Rome sleeps suffocating in summer heat. The air is thick, restless, as if the city itself senses something is about to change. In the darkness, a cry. Fire. A single voice shatters the silence, and in an instant, panic begins to ripple through the narrow streets. Flames erupt near the Circus Maximus, leaping from shop to shop, devouring the city's wooden heart. The fire spreads with terrifying speed, feeding on the dry timbers and crowded stalls. Panic explodes. People flee through choking smoke, the city a maze of chaos and terror. Families are separated, possessions abandoned, as survival becomes the only thought. The fire is relentless, merging into a single monstrous inferno. The night sky glows red and the roar of flames drowns out all else. Homes, temples, markets, nothing is spared. Centuries of history and culture are reduced to embers in hours. For 6 days and 7 nights Rome burns. The city's defenders are powerless, the flames unstoppable, as day blurs into night and hope fades. The eternal city is reduced to ash before its people's eyes. What once seemed indestructible now lies broken and blackened. Helpless, they watch their world vanish. Grief and disbelief settle over the survivors, who can do nothing but mourn what is lost. In the aftermath, one question echoes: who did this? Whispers of blame and suspicion swirl through the ruins. This is more than disaster, it's a turning point. The city's fate and the fate of its people will never be the same. In the ruins, fear and suspicion ignite. Neighbors eye each other warily, searching for someone to blame. A leader, desperate to save himself, will soon redirect the city's rage. Political survival demands a scapegoat, and the search begins. The Christians, a small, misunderstood sect, are thrust into the spotlight. Their strange customs and secret meetings make them easy targets. Their fate, forged in these flames, will echo through history. The fire marks the beginning of a new chapter for Rome and for the world. The story of Nero, the fire, and the Christians is a warning. Fear and blame can be as destructive as any blaze. In the chaos, truth is the first casualty. Even now, the lesson endures. Truth is fragile, and scapegoats are easily made. History remembers the flames, but also the shadows they cast. Let's journey back, not just to see what happened, but to understand why it still matters. The echoes of that night still shape our world. The mystery of Rome's burning begins here. In the ashes we search for answers and for meaning. Before the fire, Rome was the world's beating heart, crowded, vibrant, and deeply divided. Its streets pulsed with life, commerce, and the constant hum of a city that never truly slept. Every corner echoed with the footsteps of citizens from every walk of life, from slaves to senators. Over 1 million people called this city home. Some lived in opulent villas surrounded by lush gardens, while many more were packed into flammable, overcrowded insulae, the towering apartment blocks that loomed over narrow streets. Rome was a patchwork of splendor and squalor, where magnificent temples stood side by side with crumbling tenements. The city's beauty was undeniable, but so was its poverty. At its center stood Emperor Nero, just 26 years old, more artist than ruler, a man whose passions often overshadowed his responsibilities. He scandalized Rome with his public performances and lavish banquets, fueling endless rumors and resentment among both the elite and the common people. The Circus Maximus thrilled crowds with chariot races, while the Forum buzzed with heated political debates and bustling trade. Every day brought new spectacles and distractions. Religion was everywhere. Sacrifices, festivals, and temples dedicated to countless gods filled the calendar, offering both hope and order to the masses. But beneath the spectacle, tension simmered. Fear and uncertainty crept through the city's winding alleys and crowded forums. The gap between rich and poor was vast, and the city's infrastructure was stretched to its breaking point. Crumbling buildings and neglected streets were a daily reality for many. Nero's erratic behavior and grand ambitions, like his extravagant dream palace, the Domus Aurea, stoked unease and suspicion among the people, who wondered what he might do next. Rome was a powder keg, beautiful, volatile, and ruled by a man whose unpredictable whims could change everything in an instant. The city's problems were mounting, and all it needed was a spark. That spark was coming, and it would ignite a crisis that would shake Rome to its core. Into the swirling chaos and grandeur of ancient Rome came the Christians, a new, secretive faith that seemed to emerge from the shadows. Their beliefs were unfamiliar, their customs strange, and their presence unsettling to many Romans. To the Romans, these followers of Christ were odd, refusing to worship the traditional gods, shunning public rituals, and gathering only in private hidden places. Their secrecy bred suspicion and fear among their neighbors, who wondered what truly happened behind those closed doors. Rumors began to spread, whispers of cannibalism, incest, and dark forbidden rites. The unknown always breeds fear, and the Christians' mysterious ways fueled wild imaginations. They called each other brother and sister, and greeted with a holy kiss, innocent acts, but to outsiders, fuel for slander and misunderstanding. Most shocking of all, they refused to honor the emperor as a god. In Rome, this was more than disrespect. It was seen as outright treason, a rejection of the very fabric of society. To many Romans, Christians were atheists, antisocial, and a threat to cherished traditions. Their refusal to participate in civic life set them apart as dangerous outsiders. The historian Tacitus would later call them haters of humanity, not for any crime, but for their stubborn refusal to join in Roman life and customs. By 64 AD, Christians were a small vulnerable minority, easy targets with no power, no protection, and few friends in high places. Their faith set them apart, making them the perfect scapegoats when disaster struck the city. Their difference was both their strength and their curse. When Rome burned, suspicion quickly fell on those who already stood outside society, those who were already mistrusted and maligned. The Christians' difference, once merely a curiosity, would soon become their greatest danger, a reason for fear and for persecution. In a city desperate for answers and eager for someone to blame, the Christians became the obvious target. The stage was set for tragedy, and the fate of the suspicious sect would soon be sealed. The fire spread with terrifying speed, oil, textiles, and wind fueling the blaze. Rome's fire brigades were overwhelmed, escape was nearly impossible. As the city burned, so did rumors. The most damning, Nero himself set the fire to clear land for his palace. Stories spread. Nero watching the flames, playing his lyre as Rome fell. True or not, the people believed it. After 6 days, the fire was contained, then reignited, burning for 3 more days. The devastation was total. Only 4 of Rome's 14 districts were untouched. Hundreds of thousands were homeless, desperate, and furious. Nero's popularity plummeted. The city's grief turned to rage. The emperor needed a scapegoat, fast. The Christians, already distrusted, became the obvious target. Blame shifted from the palace to the powerless. In the ruins, a new tragedy was about to begin. The hunt for culprits would be merciless. Nero's reputation was in ruins. He needed to deflect blame. The Christians, secretive, unpopular, powerless, were the perfect scapegoats. The historian Tacitus wrote, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted exquisite tortures on Christians, hated for their abominations. By blaming them, Nero became Rome's protector, punishing supposed criminals. The public's anger shifted from Nero to the Christians. Rumors of dark rituals and hatred of humanity made the accusation stick. Nero launched relief efforts, opening gardens to the homeless, bringing in food, unveiling plans to rebuild Rome. He framed his rebuilding as salvation from the criminals who destroyed the city. The narrative worked. Nero was no longer the arsonist, but the savior. The Christians, meanwhile, faced a nightmare. The emperor's gambit had set a deadly precedent. The machinery of persecution began to turn. The persecution was swift and savage. Christians were rounded up, first those who confessed, then many more by accusation. Their crime, simply being Christian. Nero turned executions into public spectacle, crucifixions, maulings by wild animals, and the most infamous, human torches, lighting his garden parties. The city watched, vengeance disguised as justice. For a time, the crowds cheered. But the cruelty backfired. Even those who despised Christians began to pity them. Tacitus noted, compassion grew for the victims, who suffered not for public good, but to satisfy one man's cruelty. The persecuted became martyrs. Nero, a tyrant. The spectacle intended to destroy a faith instead gave it new strength. The blood of the martyrs became the seed of the church. Rome's thirst for vengeance had unleashed something it could not control. The world was watching and remembering. Amid horror, stories of faith and courage emerged. Tradition says Peter and Paul, Christianity's greatest leaders, died in this persecution. Peter crucified upside down, Paul beheaded. Their deaths transformed them from leaders to legends. Ordinary believers, shopkeepers, slaves, mothers, faced death with prayers and hymns. Their calm defiance stunned their executioners. For these Christians, faith was worth dying for. Suffering became a badge of honor. Their courage inspired others, strengthening the church. In the ashes, hope refused to die. Nero's persecution was brutal but brief, confined mostly to Rome. It fed on prejudice, but public pity soon grew. Ironically, the attempt to destroy Christianity only made it stronger. The courage of the martyrs inspired awe and new converts. Nero's own end was ignominious. Abandoned, declared a public enemy, he died by suicide. The fire, the persecution, and Nero's fall left a permanent mark. For Christians, martyrdom became central, a story of suffering and redemption. For Rome, it was a warning about fear, power, and the cost of scapegoating. The attempt to crush a faith only revealed its resilience. In the darkness, a new hope began to burn.